You don't notice it at first. You scroll through TikTok, videos of people dancing, cooking, teaching you how to invest $100, or telling you some strange fact you never knew. It feels harmless, fun even, and that's part of the charm. But here's something that should stop you for a second. TikTok, the app dominating your feed, isn't allowed in the country where it was created, not the version you use. In China, they have their own version called Douyin. Looks the same, sure, but it works differently. It's controlled, timed, restricted, and tailored for a completely different audience. Now flip the situation. Can you open Facebook in China? No. Can you use Instagram, YouTube, WhatsApp, or Google search? No again. What we're looking at is a digital door that swings in only one direction, and no one really talks about that. This isn't a tech glitch, it's not an accident, it's a decision. A national strategy that's been in place for over a decade. A strategy that says, we won't let your apps influence our people, but we'll let our apps influence yours. That raises a big question. Is this fair trade? Or are we living inside a system that rewards imbalance? Back in 2009, China banned Facebook after a series of protests broke out in Xinjiang. The government didn't want people using outside platforms to organize or speak freely. They used the same argument later to block Twitter and YouTube. They said it was about national security. And that's where the shift began. Instead of playing on the same field as the rest of the world, China built its own. Domestic platforms were encouraged to rise. WeChat, Baidu, Weibo, all of them had one thing in common: strong oversight, national alignment, and strict content rules. Now here's where things get interesting. While China was closing the door to US-based apps, it was also building its own technology companies to go global. ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, was one of the biggest winners in that movement. Founded in 2012, it didn't take long for the company to realize something powerful. If they could package their content for international users without the restrictions they applied at home, they could win hearts, minds, and attention across the globe. And that's exactly what they did. TikTok wasn't just well-made, it was smart. It filled a gap in the market. Facebook had gotten too heavy, Instagram too curated, YouTube too long. TikTok offered speed, freshness, and an algorithm that seemed to read your mind. But behind all the fun, the core reality remains. China keeps its borders tight but sells digital products that operate freely elsewhere. And that's where the idea of fairness starts to break. Imagine if the US blocked all Chinese car brands, but Ford and Tesla were sold openly in China. People would ask questions, trade negotiators would step in, headlines would appear. But when it's digital, when it's about apps, attention, influence, it doesn't get the same treatment. And yet, it's arguably more important. Because we're not just talking about trade, we're talking about how people communicate, what they believe, what they see, what they're taught to value. Platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube shape culture now. They influence elections, they launch careers, they even affect mental health and public opinion. So why does one country get to block the outside world from speaking to its people, while fully participating in how the rest of the world communicates? This is Curtis, and I want us to stop looking at this like it's just about TikTok being fun or Facebook being outdated. It's about something deeper, something more serious. A power shift that's happening not through bombs or borders, but through screens. Next, we're going to dig into the strategy behind China's digital wall, why it was built, how it's held up so long, and what other countries missed while this was happening. We're going to talk real tactics, government policy, corporate partnerships, and the slow, quiet rise of a digital empire. But before we get there, do me one favor. If you've made it this far, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. These videos aren't just content. They're tools to help you understand where power is shifting and why it matters to you. Let's talk about the wall, not the kind made of bricks or barbed wire, but the kind made of policies, permissions, and quiet decisions that change how billions of people interact with the world. China's digital wall is one of the strongest in the world. And it didn't happen overnight. It was built slowly, one app, one rule, one platform at a time. It started with a mindset. If we're going to open our economy to the world, we're going to control the conversation while doing it. That's why, as China became a manufacturing superpower, it didn't open the floodgates to outside influence. It opened the markets, but not the messages. One of the earliest signs of this strategy came with Google. In the early 2000s, Google tried to expand into China, but they faced constant friction. The government wanted full control of search results. They wanted to block sensitive topics: Tibet, Hong Kong protests, religious groups, political history. Google resisted, and by 2010 they pulled out. That was a turning point. It showed the world that China wasn't going to bend to Silicon Valley's rules. And then came Facebook, blocked in 2009, YouTube soon after, Twitter, gone, WhatsApp, restricted. Western tech giants couldn't make it through the door, not because they weren't useful, but because they were too open. Inside the wall, though, something else was happening. Domestic companies like Tencent and Alibaba started to grow. They were backed by investment, protected from foreign competition, and aligned with government interests. That gave them an edge, a big one. Then came ByteDance. ByteDance figured out the future: early short-form content, fast feedback, powerful personalization. They created Douyin for China and TikTok for the world. The difference between the two? Control. In China, content is limited by age. Algorithms are tuned to promote educational videos over dance trends. Political topics are carefully scrubbed. There are digital timers for kids. Now compare that to the version of TikTok used in the US, Europe, and elsewhere. It's open, it's loud, it's wild. There's viral content every day. Political takes, comedy, education, disinformation, all of it flowing freely. Two different rules, one company. This is the brilliance of China's digital playbook. They didn't just block foreign tech. They built their own, and exported it to the world. Think about it like this. Imagine if America banned every foreign car brand, then built its own car company and made it available in every other country, without letting any of those countries sell back to them. And while other companies dealt with red tape and local restrictions, this one company got full access to global markets, data, and culture. That's what ByteDance has done with TikTok. And this isn't just a story about apps. It's a story about market advantage. Because while Meta and Alphabet are locked out of China, ByteDance gets to learn from hundreds of millions of users around the world. Their algorithm improves with every swipe, their ad system gets sharper, their influence grows, and all the while, their competitors have one hand tied behind their back. You start to see why this isn't just about fun content. This is about strategy, about setting the rules of a global game and refusing to let others play by them. I'm Curtis, and this is the part where I want you to think about something bigger. Why does this matter? Because when one country builds the tools and also controls the access, it starts to shape how the rest of the world thinks, feels, and reacts. And if you're using a tool every day without knowing how it works, who made it, and what it's learning from you, you're not a user. You're a product. We've seen this before in other industries. Look at Huawei. For years, they dominated global telecom infrastructure. Then questions arose. How much influence does the Chinese government have over this company? Can this tech be trusted in sensitive areas? Governments started banning Huawei equipment from their networks. Not because of fear, but because of structure. Because once the pipes of communication are controlled by a foreign power, everything sent through those pipes becomes vulnerable. So why do we treat social media differently? Because it feels personal, it feels small, but it's not. It's one of the most powerful forms of communication today. And when that power is one-sided, the influence becomes quiet, but massive. Next, we're going to look at what's at stake if this continues, what it means for free speech, digital sovereignty, and the future of competition, and more importantly, what choices countries have if they want to level the field. Before we continue, if this is opening your eyes, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. I don't bring noise. I bring clarity, so people like you can see the story behind the story. Let's stop pretending this is about an app, because it's not. TikTok is just the current face of something much bigger. This is about who controls attention, who owns the algorithms, who gets to shape the narrative for the next generation. And whether or not we've already given too much away without realizing it. See, the real cost here isn't just trade imbalance, it's trust. It's culture. It's control. Every time you swipe up on TikTok, you're feeding a machine. It learns what you like, what you stop to watch, what makes you angry, what makes you laugh, and then it gives you more. Not randomly, not neutrally, but based on signals, patterns, and choices that you can't see. Now multiply that by hundreds of millions of people. An entire generation is learning, socializing, and shaping their worldview through one app. One system, controlled by one company, from one country. That doesn't allow the same freedom inside its own borders. Let me give you a real-life example. During major political moments, protests, elections, international conflicts, users on Western platforms see waves of content, opinions, misinformation, and open debates. It's messy, sure, but it's part of a free space. But on TikTok, some topics seem to get less traction. Others seem to get elevated. You won't always notice it, but creators do. They'll tell you how some posts mysteriously lose reach, how certain hashtags suddenly vanish, how the app nudges the conversation without ever telling you it's doing it. This is where it gets dangerous. Not because of what you see, but because of what you don't. And while we're distracted by the dances, the memes, and the life hacks, a new kind of influence is settling in, one that's faster than traditional media, more personal than television, and harder to question because it feels like you chose it. But did you? We've seen this pattern before with other forms of soft power. Hollywood for decades was a global export. It shaped how people saw America, its values, its flaws, its freedom. But now there's a new kind of influence being exported. Short-form, fast, decentralized content delivered through algorithms no one fully understands. And we're not leading it, we're reacting to it. Now here's where we need to ask the hard question. Why do we allow this kind of imbalance to continue? Imagine if Facebook created a special version of Instagram just for China, sanitized, censored, structured for their rules. And then said, now let us back into your country. That deal would never be accepted. Because China's policy is clear, foreign influence is a threat. But when the roles are reversed, when they influence the rest of the world through their platforms, it's allowed, it's profitable, it's even applauded by some as innovation. That's the hypocrisy. And it's not just China's, it's ours too, because we've looked away. We've chosen convenience over caution, engagement over equality, and now we're dealing with the consequences. Let's talk about people who see the problem clearly. Billionaire investor Ray Dalio once said, "He who controls the data controls the future," and he wasn't exaggerating. Because when you have data, you can predict behavior. When you can predict behavior, you can shape outcomes. Data isn't just about selling ads, it's about influence, control, leverage. That's why countries fight over who builds 5G towers, why governments debate encryption laws, why tech CEOs are dragged before Congress, because whoever controls the pipes controls the flow of truth. And right now, the pipe is one-directional. China bans our platforms but exports theirs. They decide what their people see, and through their platforms, they start to shape what we see too. If you're still wondering why this matters, let me ask you something. What happens when the world's most powerful tools for communication, entertainment, and education are no longer under your control? What happens when a generation grows up trusting a platform that has no loyalty to their country, their rights, or their values? We don't need fear, we need fairness. This is Curtis. Next, we're going to talk about the path forward. What governments can do, what companies need to rethink, and what users, you, should demand from a system that claims to serve you. But before we go there, hit the subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. You deserve the full story, not just the one that fits in 15 seconds. Now that we've seen the imbalance, we can't ignore it. One country blocks access to your platforms, keeps your companies out, restricts your voice, but still sells its product to your kids, collects your data, and profits from your culture. That's not competition, that's not trade, that's control. So what do we do about it? Let's break it into 3 levels: governments, corporations, and you. First, the governments. This isn't about starting a tech war or banning every foreign app. It's about setting standards, Clear, fair, and firm. If a country wants access to your market, it should allow equal access to theirs, not just for products but for platforms. If your people can't use Facebook or Google or YouTube in their country, then maybe they shouldn't get full access to your population with theirs. This isn't revenge, it's reciprocity. It's how trade deals work in every other industry. You want to sell your cars here? Let us sell ours there. You want to offer your service here? Then open your market to our companies too. Fair exchange, mutual access. Right now, that doesn't exist. And governments have been too slow to notice, too distracted by political noise, too comfortable with the illusion of openness. They need to treat tech access the same way they treat airspace, defense contracts, or food safety. Because data is that important, influence is that serious. Now let's talk about the companies. Western tech giants made mistakes. They expanded fast, gathered too much data, and moved without enough thought for ethics or long-term trust. But they also believed in something China never did. Open networks. Platforms where people speak freely. That's a good thing. That's worth protecting. But here's the problem. Those same companies are losing ground. Not because they failed to innovate, but because they underestimated how powerful closed systems can be when paired with state support, strong regulation, and focused strategy. Companies like Meta, Google, and even startups need to stop copying TikTok and start thinking differently. Not, how do we make our algorithm more addictive, but how do we create digital spaces that are free, safe, and globally competitive? This is where companies have to show more backbone. It's easy to chase clicks. It's harder to build platforms that serve people and protect them at the same time, but that's the job now. And finally, let's talk about you, because this whole system works only if people don't question it. If we keep scrolling without asking, why am I seeing this? Who decides what shows up next? Why do I trust this app more than others? Then we've already lost. It's not about deleting TikTok or quitting social media. It's about awareness. About knowing that you are part of something bigger. That your data, your behavior, your time is the real product. And if someone can shape what you watch, what you click, what you feel, they can shape what you believe. That's influence. And it's being sold to you by a country that won't even let you speak freely on their own soil. It's time to stop calling that business. It's not business, it's strategy, it's leverage, it's a power play dressed in entertainment. This is Curtis, and I want you to walk away from this not with fear, but with clarity. Clarity that the world is shifting. Not just through policies or armies, but through apps and feeds. Through content that feels personal, but is shaped by forces you don't see. And if we don't start setting boundaries, building balance, and asking the right questions, we'll look up one day and realize we handed over the keys without even knowing it. So here's the last thing I'll ask you. If this message made you think, if it helped you see the bigger picture, then subscribe and turn on the notification bell, not just to follow me but to remind yourself to stay aware, stay curious, stay in control. Because in the world we're walking into, attention is currency, and you deserve to spend yours wisely. See you in the next one.